Hello, welcome to The Viewpoint. I am Mamadou Mboj. The Viewpoint is a current affairs program that tries to go beyond the headlines and elucidates the knotty and entangled political issues of our time. Good governance is a term that has become part of the vernacular of development literature. The former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan once noted that good governance is perhaps the single most important factor in eradicating poverty and promoting development. Increasingly, bad governance is regarded as one of the root causes of all evil within our societies, to the extent that major donors and international financial institutions are basing their aid and loans on the condition that reforms that ensure good governance are undertaken. Despite this consensus, the term good governance is not as clear-cut as one might think. My guest today has backs of experience in governance, and he will help us unpack this rather aggregated term. He joined the PPP in 1968, and less than 10 years later, in 1977, he became the Member of Parliament for Serekunda East. President Jawara appointed him Parliamentary Secretary, and in 1981, he launched the Ministry of Water Resources, marking his entry into the cabinet. At the time of the coup in 1994, he was the Minister of Agriculture, the ministry to which he would return in 2017 in the coalition government. A year later, however, he was among the casualties of Barrow's first cabinet reshuffle. I am, of course, talking about no other than Omar Amadou Jallow, popularly known as OJ. Welcome, Mr. Jallow.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mboj. Thank you for inviting me to Viewpoint of Coup TV.
We are honored.
I'm honored. I'm humbled, really.
And we are also honored to have you.
Thank you very much.
Yes. The Never Again slogan we see at the TRRC, I mean, surely it must go beyond that. It must, all the institutions, it seems, all public institutions must reflect on the experiences we've had recently, so that the bad practices that were here will never occur there as well. But here we are told that without good governance, the economic prosperity we want, the recovery we want, wouldn't happen. So I want to ask you, your experience in government, Jawara's time and Barrow's time, what do we mean by good governance?
Thank you very much for this, a very, very important question. First and foremost, I will echo the statement I make in not only Gambia, but in many international fora, that we as Africans, we have not learned from our history, and we have not learned from the mistakes and experiences of others. Because it is only the African race that has been enslaved for 400 years, colonized for 400 years, dehumanized for 400 years. But I've seen in Africa, since independence started, that African leaders treat their own brothers and sisters, their citizenry, worse than the slavers and than the colonialists. That is therefore, the Never Again slogan is a very, very important slogan. But we can never ever succeed in it if we, as citizens, don't erase few things from our mindset. One, let us stop glorifying and personalizing leaders in any form, whether it is religious, political, social, cultural. The people choose a leader. Therefore, that leader should be answerable to the people and not the other way. When leaders are afraid of the people, you have genuine democracy. But when people are afraid of leaders, you create a dictatorship. And the mindset of people should be changed, that there can never ever be peace, stability, and good governance without proper consultation and interaction with the main purpose of achieving stability and peace. Because without peace, there can be no development. Therefore, if we build on a concrete foundation based on legality, a legality that will assure that people will be respected, people's voice will be respected, and then assure people of taking ownership of the destiny of their countries, then that it is only then that the Never Again slogan can be achieved. But as long as we don't change our mindset of how we treat leadership and refusing to talk honesty and truth to power, we will continue to live in limbo.
So these are the key terms: legality, honesty,
and sincerity, commitment.
And having the courage to face power.
To face power and
that's it.
Truth to power.
Truth to power. But here again, when we talk about governance, I mean, government is just one actor in it, in the whole idea of governance. So you have civil society, we are very important in it, and perhaps NGOs, research institutions, all sorts of stakeholders, now we call them, they're all involved in governance. Yes. So how does then government engage with these other parties to it? Because
in a democratic dispensation, where democracy, human rights, rule of law are respected, the three institutions that should first and foremost show their independence and their allegiance to the state is the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. So that nobody in parliament, the moment you are elected, should see the interest of a party beyond. Because the moment election is finished, you owe your allegiance to the state. The judiciary, when it comes to implementing the law, there should be no discrimination. From the president to the last messenger should be treated equal under the law, as we see in other countries where really we know that there is a real democracy.
So right now, when you have a corrupt structure, when people come in, they may even come in with good intentions, yet sooner or later being in the structure would distort it. So in many ways, the actors are really the structure, the character of it is really determined by the person who occupies this position.
That's why I said, we have to change our mindset. For example, we have a lot of intellectuals in Africa who has betrayed Africa. Gambia not being an exception. When Idi Amin overthrew Obote, some of the best brains of the Uganda University served Idi Amin. When Haile Mariam overthrew the emperor, some of the best brains of the University of Ethiopia served him. The same thing happened in Sierra Leone, in Liberia, in Gambia. When Yahya Jammeh, with all what he was doing, had some of the best brains of this country, not only serving in his cabinet, but in other institutions where he put them and dictated them to do things that were contrary to the interest of the state and to the interest of the citizenry. So that's why I say the mindset is important. When you are a citizen, you should be ready to die for the interest of the country. If we don't have people like that in our institution as leaders, then Africa will continue to be backward.
This is really the problem. How many people will be willing to take that ultimate sacrifice?
That's why
we have seen during the Janneh Commission, for instance, how many times people will just come and say, well, I was instructed to do so. We've seen also at the TRRC how people on simple instructions, even though whatever was said, you know, had nothing to do with the proper job, but still people go ahead. But this is the problem. Very few people will step up.
If you listen to me, long before the TRRC, I made it public that I have forgiven Jammeh, and I mean it. And even in one interview, I say, if he comes to the Gambia and doesn't have a place to stay, I'll give him the free house. Jammeh has not done anything. He knows me more than any Gambian here, apart from his father and mother. And I refuse to work for him. Because for me, we grew up as the supporters of Kwame Nkrumah as a student. And the day the army overthrew Kwame Nkrumah, that's what kept Africa backward. Because that man was working for the unity of Africa, both in terms of politics, in terms of economy. That is why when I went to the TRIC, I said, when 14 young people were shot, 10th, 11th April 2000, how many ministers resigned? When Cheyasin Seka, the Minister of Justice, set up a commission of inquiry on that and identified the killers, he was sacked. And the president went to parliament with a bill to indemnify the killers How many MPs resigned or abstained? Are they owing obligation to their conscience, to their state, to the people, or were they only owing obligation to their pockets? They were not owing obligation to their agenda. Is it the positions that they were given to? The benefits that were accruing from those positions? Well, that's why what happened here for 22 years can happen. When you are being asked to do something that is wrong between yourself and your God, say no. Whatever happens, God is watching.
Yes, so some might say that is easier said than done. But I will also I want to probe further. What drew you into politics? I mean, for us now, we are just so cynical about politicians. I wonder what was the feeling like, the sentiment like in your day when you joined politics?
As I told you, I started politics at an early age, from high school. And all my colleagues who I was in St. Augustine knows how politically minded I was. And as a young Serekundian...
So you were a student activist?
Yes, student activist. Not only that, when the Guinea-Bissau fighting started, I became friendly to Nino Vera, because I used to organize something in Serekunda, go to Casamas and present to them in the bush. I believe in freedom, particularly the freedom of the black person, because I thought we have gone through a lot of things. That is why in 1968, April, I can remember, I decided to join the PPP and be an active politician. A lot of people were not happy with it, including some members of my family. I contested in 72 and failed. Then when they established the Commercial and Development
Bank...
Bank...
constituency?
Serekunda constituency.
Serekunda East.
Then no, that one was Serekunda in 72. Then it was splitted in 76. Then there was Serekunda East, Serekunda, then I contested. But before that, after 72, they established the Commercial and Development Bank, and Usain Njai appointed me as a public relations officer. But because of my background in the cooperatives and accounting, he sent me to Ghana to do development financing. And I came and I promoted to a manager. 77, I decided to resign against the advice of a lot of people. And I can remember the board meeting to convince me not to resign, the board of directors, and Pa Bidwell was the chairman. And he asked me whether Sir Dawda has given me a promise that the moment I win, I'll be made a minister, because I was receiving more than parliamentary secretaries. I said, no, I've not discussed it. I just want to be in politics. And he said, I've never seen a stupid young man like you. And I said, thank you, sir.
Light. From the beginning of time, light has been there.
It is integral to our survival and to our way of living.
We need light to work,
to build,
to grow things, and even to see our loved ones.
Light makes things easier and better.
So QCell has changed the way you buy Q Power to make it easier and more accessible.
You can now access the same service quickly and get your cash power tokens instantly with the new QCell Q Power code.
To light up your world, simply dial *363#.
With a touch of your fingers,
with ease and convenience from the comfort of your home or office,
you can bring light into your world instantly with *363#.
Q Power, lighting your world.
QCell Sunyabus.
We innovate, others follow.
The moment I win, I'll be made a minister, because I was receiving more than parliamentary secretaries. I said, no, I've not discussed it. I just want to be in politics. And he said, I've never seen a stupid young man like you. And I said, thank you, sir. Then I went into politics, because I told some of my friends, if we allow only people who go into politics because they can use it as a means to an end for their interest, Africa will continue to be backward. Some politicians are there for their own interest. We have few African politicians who are there for their state. And that's what we should look into now, and make sure when they are choosing their leaders, let them there choose their leaders correctly, not based on tribe, not based on religion, not based on personal relationship, but on the character of the individual, the commitment and honesty of the individual, the play of that individual in society for the upliftment of the people where he belongs.
So you are essentially always political in that sense.
I was always political.
Yes, but when you lost in '72, what did that teach you about politics and between '72 and '77?
That's right.
What were you doing in politics?
It taught me that the young people are never interested in politics by then, because even the friends I was going with, over 30 of us, only 2 of us has voters cards. The young people were not interested in politics, in only the older generation. That is why I used my time between 72 and 77 to make sure I engage the younger generation so that they can know that they are the majority in the country and the future of the country rests in their own hands. And if we want peace, if we want stability, if we want progress, if we want to change the status quo from what prevails to a better situation, then we, the young people, has to take the destiny of the country in our own hands. And I was able to register thousands and thousands. Fortunately, that is why I became the MP who pulls the biggest votes in Gambia.
Yes, absolutely.
Because of the young people.
Exactly. And after that, you were made parliamentary secretary from after 77,
yes.
Wasn't it? Until 1982 when you joined the cabinet. Until 81, yeah. When you joined the cabinet as Minister of Water Resources. So as parliamentary secretary, so this is what we want to explore now, what we might call the mechanics of governance. As parliamentary secretary, what was the relationship with the permanent secretary, for instance? What was the function? And the relationship with the permanent secretary, and another one with the minister. What was the mechanics like?
Yeah, it was very smooth. Fortunately, I was appointed Parliamentary Secretary External Affairs under L.K. Jabang, who was holding that position until when I was appointed, and he was promoted to Minister of External Affairs. And then he really accommodated me, and he was very open, because I was more or less the acting deputy. Unfortunately, we had people like Ibutal and so many other people who were genuine and experienced civil servants who helped us to pursue and promote the policy of government in terms of how can we build a foreign policy where Gambia will be seen as a partner to most of these developing countries. And I was fortunate that at 31, I became a parliamentary secretary. And I led teams to the UN, to the OAU, to non-aligned movement in Cuba, you know, to the Liberation Committee that I led to Nigeria when Joe Gaba was then foreign minister. And I can remember the liberation leaders. One of them was Mugabe. I met him first in Nigeria, then they have not got independence yet. And at that time, it gave me experience as a young person, and it consolidated my wish for Africa to earn what is due to us for the first time in history, to earn our freedom, our respect, our dignity.
But what was the role of a parliamentary secretary?
For example, my role was to assist the minister. That is why the minister has a lot of responsibilities that he accorded to me, both in the office and outside office. And whenever he couldn't go to any of the missions, he will choose me to represent him and to represent the state in those missions.
And what was the relationship of the parliamentary secretary and the permanent secretary?
Oh yes, the permanent secretary is a civil servant.
Yes.
And at that time,
so yours, the parliamentary secretary,
is a political
me,
I was a member of parliament,
yeah,
and
so the
two political appointees in the ministry is the parliamentary secretary and the minister.
Yes.
But the permanent secretary, the deputy PS, the senior expert, they are all civil servants. And that time, Gambia had the best civil servant in Africa.
Did they come to your rallies? Did they come to your rallies or to your events?
That is why I always say, if anybody has ever seen any of us having a political rally and seeing our officers there, come and tell me. It's not possible. I have never discussed politics with any of my permanent secretaries or my undersecretary or any of the civil servants. That is why I said, whoever saw Eric Christensen in a PPP rally when Sadao was president, he was the first secretary general. Then you have Francis Butch. Then you have Jebel Langley. Then you have Sarah Janga. Nobody has ever seen any of the Secretary General in a political platform. That was not possible. Sir Dawda was very strict and maintained the independence and professionalism of the civil service. That is why the World Bank used to use Gambia to send civil servants from other states to come and understudy the civil service of the Gambia.
Yes. So in 81, from permanent secretary,
parliamentary secretary,
sorry, now to a minister, the first minister actually of water resources.
Yes, Sir Dawda had confidence in me as a young person, and a lot of people I've seen even asking him, why do you have so much confidence in the young person? He appointed me Minister of Water Resources, Fisheries, Forestry, Wildlife, and the Environment for me to establish that new ministry, because then it was at the height of the drought. Then when the SILS summit met, they decided that all the SILS states should have now a Minister of Water Resources and Forestry in order to see how best we can fight the disastrous effects of drought. So I was the first to head that ministry. Unfortunately, he allowed me to lead that ministry from 81 to 88 before I was moved to agriculture from 81 to 89. Then 89, I was moved to agriculture to 95, to 94 when the coup took place.
Yes, and here I'll be also very curious to know, because really good governance would have to do with decision making and implementing those decisions, the structures and stuff like that. So I wonder, how were decisions made? What did you learn as a minister, either in cabinet? Did you have to debate policy? Everybody had to debate policy? How were decisions made and the implementations?
We were lucky to have a president like Sir Dawda who believed in the technicians and expertise of the technicians. Because it was only in Sir Dawda's regime that I have seen a minister has a problem with a permanent secretary and he removes the minister. He respects the decisions of our expertise. Because if I am in agriculture, I'm an agriculturalist. Who should help me? That is the Department of Agriculture and other institutions headed by people who have the expertise in those areas. So me, I'm a policymaker. But those are the people who should implement the policy. Therefore, that linkage, that strong linkage, that interest, that support that we need, we have to build that confidence between the two groups. And you can only build it by showing them that you have trust and confidence in them, and you respect them and you trust them, so that they can work with you as a team. Without the working as a team, there'll be failure.
This brings us now to a rather curious point. There was a good governance. By all indication, international bodies have been writing about this for a very long time. Nonetheless, the 81 attempted coup happened.
Yes.
And what we had was nepotism. We remember Kukwai's broadcast, rampant corruption, and all the rest of it.
Flamboyant lifestyle.
Jame would add to the vocabulary of that sort of talk. But that was really that was a dent on the PPP.
Yeah.
What happened?
What happened is what happened to all countries. That's why I always tell that we have two enemies in Africa: our intellectuals and the people in uniform. Because a lot of people go into the army because they have an opinion or an objective to achieve something they cannot achieve without holding the gun. That's why we have seen so many coups d'etats in Africa, not only in Gambia. Because any sane person, if Kukwai can contest the elections of 1987. No, sorry,
was it 77?
77.
And he lost, didn't he?
Fufoni, and lost under NCP, and went and convinced the renegades of the field force and other people outside to support him, to overthrow the constitutionally elected government in which he had confidence to contest under that system. Give you a them that he had only one personal objective, his personal interest. Because he was not the only one who lost the elections. So many people, I lost in 72, but I do not take arms to fight.
But again, there was also a political party there, a more Marxist political party that emerged. Was it Jibril George? Bingu George had a party, and again there was a merger issue.
Yeah.
There was some social, there was an undercurrent of unrest, as it were, if one can call it that, which culminated into.
What is wrong with
July
Africans
30th.
is we never have our originals. We only take from other people. Socialism, communism, capitalism are all alien to us. And all these other parties, I have no problem. Let them have a problem. But why should they think that they should impose themselves on the people? Why not go and convince people that you are the best party and let them vote for you? I can just give an example. In 1992, PPP lost a lot of our major seats. We lost to Manna, where we have one of our strongest members of parliament and ministers, MC Cham. We lost Nyani, where Sadada comes from. And it was his nephew, Tali Bensuda, who was contested. We lost it. We lost Dankunku, where Sadada's mother comes from. We lost Bansang, where the person who was contesting, Keba Jawara, was Sadada's elder brother's son. We lost Eastern Fonyi. We lost Jokadu. We lost a lot of our main strong seats because those people were able to go and convince the electorates that they will be able to do better than the PPP MPs who were there. I say, why are all these parties that were existing then could not go and engage the population rather than trying to impose themselves by force of arms on the people? I will never ever support any government that came into being by imposing itself on the people.
Okay, so so in your view, there's really no fault to the PPP. I mean, if you remember, okay, well, we'll go on to that. But if you can remember at the field force as well, when Eko Mahoney and Mustafa Danso, when he killed him, there was disillusionment. So there was a lot of disillusionment. It's quite interesting drawing parallels between 81 and 1994. We were hearing from TRRC soldiers of the disillusionment within. Perhaps this is a lesson for all leaders to learn. When your security people, that when they are disillusioned about something, then maybe they might do something that they shouldn't. What do you think?
There is no perfect human being, so there will be no perfect government or institution. Anything that is headed by human beings, the imperfections of the human beings will rear its heads in those institutions. That is why God has given us the brain to learn from our mistakes. But what I'm saying is, if you are in the army or in the field force, you are not satisfied, you have a right to resign. Why do you think you should impose yourself on people and take a gun, particularly to follow somebody who was satisfied with the system and contested within the system? In the same way, there are so many civil servants who are not happy. Even in QTV here, there must be some people who are not happy with what is happening. But there is no institution where you will go and meet everybody concurring with what would happen in that institution or in our own homes. Therefore, that's why I say in politics, I believe in seeking the support of people when you want to lead. And in only the people who should make you lead. Just like I can remember, me and Sir Dauda went to Abuja some time ago during the First Republic. And I can remember the then president of Burkina Faso, Captain, is it Thomas Sankara? Is that Burkinabe? Yes. Making a serious statement, virtually insulting all the heads of states who were there. When we met that evening, I said, my brother, this is not the way an African should be talking to our elders. If they are making mistakes, let us learn from their mistakes and rectify it when we take over. He was not happy with what I said. The next morning, He was supposed to take over the ECOWAS chairmanship. But Ofebwanyi proposed that Ibrahim Babangida should continue. And he had the support of 3/4 of the heads of state. They are there. And then, in the closing remarks, Ofebwanyi was angry with him and said, when I was being a deputy minister in France, your mother was not yet born. And this was a summit. But it's because the way he addressed those elders. And he went to town on him and said, for me, I am elected by the Ivorians through the ballot box. But you, who elected you? You imposed yourself on the people. So you have never had the consent of the people. So you are an illegal president.
Yes.
Unfortunately, 3 months after the summit, he was overthrown.
Yes. This brings us straight to my next point, really. Leadership. Maybe in 1992, Sadauda made a declaration. I think some they call it the Massa Concord Declaration. He said he wanted to step down. So we understand that various camps emerged. Some said he should stay. Others said it's okay to go. Yeah. What do you make of all that
I was saga? The leader of the camp who said he should go. And it's on record. Everybody knows that.
Did you tell him that?
Life. He's alive. But up to today, I'm the only one who goes to visit him and have breakfast with him every other Sunday. Because he made me to swear on the Quran that I'll tell him the truth. And I will not be afraid of a human being and not God.
So when
that happened, we had a lot of issues. Because for me, I thought we should have allowed him to go. Because up to now, I'm convinced that if he had gone, there'll be no coup d'etat. But I wouldn't blame him, because he has made the statement in Mansa Concord, and I know, I can swear that he meant it. But when he came here, the amount of delegation, the amount of organizations, the amount of people going to him begging, using his family, his friends, the party, using other people in other governments, he's human. That's what happened. That's why he changed his position. And then,
but wasn't that a kind of weakness? I mean, of course, in fact, when I read his book, he quoted the motto, Vox Populi, Vox Dei, the voice of the people, the voice of
That's
God.
The motto of the PPP.
Absolutely. But again, I recall another conception of leadership, that a leader would look at the direction that humanity is going, then you lead your people there. Sometimes you may need to go against the people. Isn't it? In a good leadership, you may have confronted a situation where you may need to go against the people for tomorrow.
No, we are all different. That's what I said. All of us are different. The way we approach things, the way we do things, the way we speak, the way we act. Sadauda, I know him. He's human. He's too humanistic. That is why I told him in a meeting that, sir, I would have been very happy if you go. But because we are here in the Central Committee, and all of them has voted for you to start, except me, I'm a Democrat. I'll agree. But I thought it was best for you to go. But I was saying, that's why at my opening here, I said, until and unless we stop glorifying leaders and personalize them and making them gods, we will never ever progress as we need to progress in Africa. Because how many leaders of America have gone after 8 years, are dead? How many in Europe? And how many African leaders are now dead, but their countries are surviving? We should know that every leader is a human being. If God can bring prophets and make them die, why not presidents and prime ministers?
Absolutely. But was he a consultative kind of president? For instance, with the decision to step down, I wonder if he discussed it with his cabinet, for instance. I mean, the captain of a team, I imagine if I want to step down as a captain, I will talk to my colleagues and that sort of thing. I wonder if he was consultative, because I've also heard you at the TRRC testimonies, the hearings, you said that when the Nigerians were coming, you didn't discuss it in cabinet. Yeah. That was quite revealing as well.
I will never ever allow a country that is plagued with coup d'etats for their army to come and lead my army. Unfortunately for Sir Dawda also, he never brought the point to cabinet before he made the statement in Mansakonko. But I think, as I said, we are all human. When he made it, if all of us had supported his position, he would have gone. But it's the way people behaved there and after, if the heavens are coming down. And he's human, as I said.
Absolutely. But it is important for us to bring these things out, because really the theme is good governance. Right. And good governance has to do with decision making and how many people are involved in it. Is it participatory? And then everybody, that's one of the key words that we use these days, and all the rest of it. And then 94 happened.
Yes. 94.
Your defiance, I think the symbol, the symbolism which I like in your testimony as well, was you and Sana Sabali. Yes. When he was bringing down Dawda's portrait, and then you would put it back, bring it down, so put it back. It seemed so small, but it seemed like a metaphor for the lion heart, the defiance. Suffered all sorts of things in the hands of the security people at Mile 2 and elsewhere. What kept you going? You were suffering 22 times, you were arrested. What kept you going?
I think, when people have trust in you, never betray that trust, particularly in electing you to leadership. And the quality of a leader is not tested when the going is nice. No. It's when the going gets difficult. If I was standing, speaking for Serekunda East, speaking for all farmers, speaking for all Gambians as part of the government of the Gambia, and those people are in distress, in difficulties, for me to leave them here would have been a betrayal on my part of the people who has their trust in me and look up to me for guidance and leadership. That's why I stayed. All my people, most of my children are in Europe, in America. Tried, I refused. And going to prison is an experience. So as I said, the people I met there in the cells are human beings like me. They were born, bred, Christian like that they did to me. There is nothing I have more than them or better than them. But God disdained that my destiny, part of my destiny, I'll meet those people in prison. I accepted it. But I'll continue to fight for the freedom and justice of this country. Yaya Jammeh came through illegality, through treasonable crime as a coup d'etat, and he imposed himself on the people, whilst for me, I got my constituency when I was poor. It was then my chairman and my Yai company who used to give me money to put in my pocket and go around campaigning for people. I used cola nuts. You took a gun, imposed yourself on those people for me to keep quiet and allow those people to suffer without me saying anything. I would have seen myself as a traitor.
Absolutely. And to imagine the number of people that we are getting to know that allegedly died then. They were all killed. So in many ways one can say that even though you went through dire things, yet you are one of the lucky ones.
Yeah,
we are alive here today.
And of course, thanks to some of the people also who used to guard me. As I always say, when I was in Mile 2 in the security wing with these 9 inmates that he executed 2012, I spent about 41 days with them. But as I said, there was an officer there called Wuyebaji. He was with me yesterday in my home. He will come me and tell me, Uncle, tomorrow, don't take your breakfast. No, tomorrow don't take your lunch. Why? I don't know. Sometimes why I'm here. Because in all where I have kept, people help me. As I said, when I was in field force in Bakau with MC Cham, Hussein Njai, and 43 others. For 13 months, they didn't allow any of them. One of the guys came, Sonko, said I should give me a letter. He will go and take food from my family, my wife, bring it at 3 a.m. We ate and he'll take it back at 4 a.m. He was caught and sacked. But whilst I'm still there, the wife got a baby and he named the baby after my wife. And I've never known this man in life. Baji also, I've never known him. But they did all these good things for me. That is why I think that when you believe in God and have trust in him, our Gambian is, we believe in God, but we don't trust in God. Believing in him is different, but having the trust that your destiny is in his hands. The day you are born, he has made sure that he knows when, where, and when you're going to die.
Yes, whether we believe in him or trust. Well, 2016 came, you know, the elections and the 2016 coalition.
That's right.
That was, and of course, I'm sure you face these questions all the time. With the coalition, because of the compromises you had to make, you came up with an MOU that said 3 years.
That's right.
I once spoke to Hamad Bai, he said it wasn't signed, but I said, well, I thought the intention was there when it was written. The signature was just a formality, but all the same. Now, you at first said that Barrow should observe 3 years, but afterwards I'm seeing that you said he should go for 5 years.
No, what I'm saying is...
Why? Why the change?
When we made that agreement, we were together as a united front. 7 parties, 3 independents. We worked very hard. And anybody who tells you we have not signed, I have got a copy of the sign. I'll give it to your group that was head by Sirif Gomez. I give them a copy.
So it was signed. There was a signed
document. So what I'm saying is, we signed and said the 3 years because we thought that the 3 years will allow us to do all the reforms that will bring in a strong, stable foundation for us to have what we need in a good democratic government. Good governance, democracy, respect for rule of law, respect for human rights.
Yes, so you had identified
prioritized
areas of immediate attention.
Immediately attention of the government, which should be 1, security reforms, 2, civil service reforms, 3, constitutional reforms, 4, economic reforms. We should do that. And now that is on. What I'm saying is, I will never ever support us to go to any elections again where if you pull 30% of the vote, you can be president. The new constitution, we are working on it. It's not yet finished. It has to go to a referendum.
Yes, but you mean all of that should have started very early on.
Very early
that was
on.
The whole point.
But they are working on it.
So who derailed it?
All of us. Me, I will not exempt myself from this problem. When we won,
how did you derail
when we won the elections, some of my own colleagues came and said, OJ and the president, if they talk about 3 years, we'll take them to court. Because the constitution says 3 years, 5 years.
But these people were also part of the agreement.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. Now, then we as a coalition, we have committees that we set up. All those committees failed to do what they should do and allow the president to do what he's doing without consultation to those people. Who are you going to blame? Because the president was the president of the coalition. He was the candidate of the coalition. We put him up as a candidate. We campaigned for him as a candidate. We made him win as our candidate.
Yes, but why did, for instance, PPP vote for Barrow instead of, for instance, Halifa Sallah? I mean, given the situation, Barrow, for one, had no experience about, you know, running things in many ways. No disrespect to him, but he even accepted. I mean, he was a real estate agent, not much experience. Whereas with Halifa, during the impasse, people even credit him for being the glue that kept things together. So one wonders, what was the criterion or the criteria of the PPP in deciding to vote for whom?
The criteria was based on the unitary factor of the coalition, irrespective of which of the candidates stand. Because we expected all of us to be in that government.
But you voted for Barrow instead of Sallah, for instance.
Yeah, he was our candidate. That's the decision of the committee of the PPP.
But why?
Because it was 4 of them.
Yes, but why Barrow? But why Barrow?
We thought he would have been, one, we have to be political. Barrow was representing the UDP. And the UDP came into force.
So it was about muscles.
That's right.
Political muscle,
yeah,
political party muscle.
That's right. Who is UDP? PPP, GPP, NCP. Because when we were banned, when I was in detention, I wrote a letter to my wife and to some of my Sloy Koka of Serekunda and some other people that wherever the UDP is meeting, let them support them. Because our party is banned. Sirif Diba's party. Most of the people in the executive of UDP also are from NCP. Ahmad Bas party. Most of them are from PPP because we were banned. That's what I'm saying. I said, because then the UDP had the support, we thought that to make it smoother, let us support their candidate, but we have already agreed on condition that he will resign from the UDP as an independent candidate and will not be partisan. That's what we agreed.
Yes, this was it. It might surprise you to learn that around that period, some journalists, we were taking bets actually, that with this coalition in government, how long before it begins to disintegrate? Right. Because we've seen from other examples that when coalitions in opposition, it's easy to paper over things, but once you go into power, very easily it disintegrates.
But some people, Senegal is going to 10 years, and their coalition have not disintegrated. You know, the most important thing is the credibility, commitment, and honesty of party leaders. We respect what we say, we respect what we do, irrespective of party, origin, tribe, or religion. But let us make sure what matters is Gambia.
Yes, and what we say, we mean
it's for the interest of Gambia, and we mean it.
So, but this is it. Barrow, during the campaign, we all heard he really campaigned under 3 years.
We all campaigned under 3 years.
Everybody campaigned under 3 years. But to turn out right now and say, now I've extended it to 5. I mean, that's really bad faith. I mean, he's already said that he's going to go to 5 years.
He has not extended to 5 years.
He said he's going to do it.
He will
disregard the MOU.
The Constitution says there cannot be elections before 5 years. Even if he comes down after 3 years, still somebody has to be chosen within the coalition to go. Is the coalition functioning properly to choose somebody from the coalition? I
mean, but again, those who agreed the 3 years, they knew that constitutionally it was 5. So it was ignored then, but now suddenly it has come into prominence.
It was not ignored. We thought we were all going to be very sincere to what we said and do what we should do.
So there was a political miscalculation.
There was a political miscalculation and human miscalculation, because you have heard that now the coalition, over 18 months they didn't meet. Until now we are trying to meet. Because Barrow was given the impression that as president, nobody should advise him to remove a minister. Because in the coalition agreement they said if you remove OJ, then the person replacing OJ should be from the PPP. And there should be consultation. But because some people believed they have total control of the government, they made him believe that he can now do what he wants. That's what I'm saying. It's not Barrow. It's us.
Now there's hardly any coalition.
That's
really,
what I'm saying. Now it's us.
That
is why I'm saying now, in order to avert instability, troubles, violence, we as leaders should once again look inward in ourselves and know that we owe our existence to the people of this country.
Okay.
We owe our existence and our our allegiance to the state. We should come together again for the interest of peace and stability, and speak and talk to each other honestly and sincerely, and see how can we pave forward so that Gambia will continue to be peaceful.
Yes. So now we go into your stint as a Minister of Agriculture once again. It was as if time had suspended. I'm sure when you went back to your own office. But here it will be interesting to have a contrast. When you were there during Jawara's time, the quality of the permanent secretaries, the quality of how you ran things, the processes and procedures in place, that compared to Barrow's government. Yeah. What would be, compare and contrast?
Yes.
fuel.
Fortunately, when I went, I met a very competent permanent secretary there called Syed Drame, who went to study during our time, came, was posted to Sapo. He became Director of Agriculture. And his deputy, Asan Jallo, was also a head of a unit at that time, came and have a master's degree. He's a civil servant who was there in the First Republic. So I was happy to have these people with me, people whom I have worked with in the First Republic, who are competent and experienced in agriculture and have expertise. So it was very easy for me to again try to build up from where we started.
Yes. So from there, we move on to the PPP Congress.
Yes.
For us, we thought that Bakari Dabo, being your colleague for a long time, you would have been allies. Some people said that would have been natural allies, but in the end, you supported Papa Nyai. Why?
We should have been allies for a long time, and Bakari, I was his closest friend in cabinet during the First Republic. And when Sadauda made that statement in Masa Congo, I was one of those who was promoting Bakari to take over from Sadauda. But what I'm saying is, whilst I was here fighting for the PPP, how was it possible for Bakari, who was minister for 3 years under PPP regime, vice president for 10 years, how can he come and work with a regime that has committed a treasonable crime by overthrowing the very government in which you are working as vice president for 10 years and minister for 3 years by the barrel of the gun, and you work for that person?
So you see him as a traitor of the PPP?
That's right. That's the fact. How would you say it? How can I, OJ, be seen working for Yaya when I was minister for 14 years under Jawara? And I was elected through a free, fair, and transparent election. For him to come, overthrow that government with the barrel of the gun, with a gun, impose himself on me and expect me to work for him. Everybody knows my relation with Yaya Jammeh. He has offered me everything. I refused. When his father died, I buried him for him. I do everything for him. But when it comes to principles and my conscience, my principle I'll never bend. I will never ever support a government that has committed a treasonable crime to overthrow a democratic government. My conscience will not allow me to work under a despot.
So that was the reason.
Yes, that's why.
So you went for Papa.
Sadauda became president, prime minister in 1941, a civil servant, no experience in politics. Became president at 46, and he was older than all the people in cabinet, except by Ebi Nyai and Jahumpa. They were all very young. Sirif Diba, Sirif Sise, Amankanyi, Jared Dafe, Kalilu Singate, Paul Balde, all these people. But they worked. As I said, what is important is have some people, good advisors, experts. That's why I said, for me, I will not contest for the leader of the PPP, because I thought it is high time for me to hand over to a younger generation and take up the advisory role of the generation. That's what we should do. We are in an era where the young people should be given the chance to take the destiny of Africa to higher heights. If Canada can have a prime minister who is under 40, if France can have a prime minister, president who is under 40, if Netherlands can have a prime minister who is 30-something, if Obama, and far older than Obama, can be president of America, why do we think that we don't have young people in Africa who are more exposed, more intelligent, for us to for us to give them leadership position, and then make sure we are not selfish. We support them and advise them.
Yes. Now we are coming towards the end of the program, so I wouldn't even ask you what Barrow is doing wrong Maybe that would be a bit too easy. What do you think that Barrow is doing right? Just as a final parting note, what is he doing right?
One, he is maintaining freedom and liberty in Gambia. That's what we lacked during the 22 years of Jammeh. And there is nothing more important than that. For a human being to have himself, to be free, to feel that freedom, to say what he wants, when and where. I think that's one thing. Two, our economy is coming up. When he was taking over, there was less than 10 weeks of reserves. Now we are talking about 8 months, 9 months. Of course, when we come to infrastructure, we have seen what is happening in the URR. Areas in which were abandoned for ages are now they are going to have access. And when you have access, particularly in infrastructure, on roads, it comes with development. We have seen that he is building that strong relations again for the Gambia to be accepted internationally. That's why I think he should be commended for going to have the donors conference. And within 3 days, he was able to make people to give us 1.7 billion. That has never happened in Gambian history.
So when it comes to good governance, he obviously rates very highly with you. Thank you very much, Mr. Jallow. We have come to the end of the program. It was highly enlightening, seeing some of the intricacies of running a government and all the rest of it. We much
Thank you very much, Mr. Mboj, and I would like you to be inviting more leaders of this country. It is necessary for us to be speaking to the people and to tell them that freedom and liberty and democracy does not mean anarchy. We should not allow us to derail the peacefulness of this country. As long as we are happy and we are proud of ourselves, every Gambian, that we have removed the despot, Yahya Jammeh, and not a blood was said. I think through negotiations, through consultation, and through talking, and through respect for each other's opinions, we can solve our problems without resorting to violence.
On that very wise note, and to the whole country indeed, on that very wise note, we come to the end of the viewpoint. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
See you again next time.
See you again next time, Mr. Boy. Thank you.